Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight, Frank, Drew Hanlon, Daily Tipton, Evolution Energy Partners, Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning, and Brian Campbell, ECBM. Matthew, could you give us a rundown on who we have on the air today, please?
Sure can, Herb. I'm looking forward to today's show. We're starting off with Jacque Fetrow, the president of Albright College. Then we have Dave Stonsifer, managing partner, Herbein and Company. Then we have Tom McEvoy, who's the president of both DesignStone and LumberCon. And we're wrapping up today with Alison Cohen, the president and CEO of Bicycle Transit Systems.
Let's get to know our first guest, Jacque Fetrow, president of Albright College. Jacque, what is Albright?
Albright College, what is traditionally called a liberal arts college, where we teach students to learn throughout their lives.
To learn throughout their lives. Where are you originally from? How many brothers and sisters? And where are you in the pecking order?
Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, and I'm the oldest of two, a brother and a sister.
All right. And tell us, what were you like 8 to 14 years old? What were you up to?
I was an introvert's introvert. I was reading books, a lot of them.
Okie dokie. Drew, give me a hand.
Jacque, is there any particular books that inspired you at a young age?
Yeah, Ursula Le Guin's Left Hand of Darkness.
And what was it about that book that motivated you?
At that point, I was tired of being treated as a woman in a gender-specific way. In that book, the characters, the science fiction book, the characters could develop as male or female. They weren't one or the other, but they would develop in relationship with another person.
And what lesson from that book do you bring to Albright with you every day?
It is really that appearances are very deceiving, and it's what's really inside of people that tells you what they are. So it's all about inclusivity and learning to meet people where they are.
Daly?
So you said you were an introvert, reading all the time. Who influenced you? Who are your biggest influences?
My mom and my dad.
Tell us about them.
My mom was a grade school teacher, kindergarten teacher. My dad was a truck driver or a truck salesman, and then a real estate salesman.
And who are you more like?
I'm an interesting mixture of both. My mom was a teacher and a disciplinarian. She taught us how to work hard. And my dad, he loved to play, and he always said, two wrongs don't make a right, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's how I try to live.
Matthew?
So if we go back to 8 to 14, Jacque, who taught you to learn?
My mom.
How'd she do that?
She let us go into the kitchen and have free reign, even when we were very young. I hated to do dishes, and she always said that if you designed and planned and went and bought the meal and cooked it, you didn't have to do the dishes, and that was great I figured out how to do it myself.
And so how does that experience in the kitchen with your mom relate to what you're doing today as the president of Albright?
Because leading a college is all about learning to learn. So many constituencies, and helping the students in today's environment to learn and to succeed in a world where they don't know what their jobs are. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Jacque, I'm curious what grade school was like for you.
What was grade school like? It was a lot of books.
And in the green room, you mentioned that you were actually bored when you were.
I found school to be very boring, so I would often sit in classroom with a book inside my desk and read a book.
And tell us what being bored in grade school has anything to do with what you're doing nowadays.
Being bored in grade school means I'm always now looking for the next thing. I don't sit still and be happy with where we are. I'm always looking at the bigger picture, the next thing. While we're dealing with the pandemic here at Albright College, what is Albright going to be and do, and how are we thriving after the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Brian?
Hey, Jacque, as a self-described introvert when you were younger, what kind of impact or effect did that have on jobs that you had as a youth?
Well, my first job was a great introvert's job, evening operator, a telephone operator at a car dealership. So I could sit in the office and be all by myself. My second job was waitress, and that's where I learned something different. To get good tips as a waitress, you had to smile and be real friendly, and I learned to be an introvert in extrovert's clothing, and I made good money and put myself through college.
So what's that have to do with your role at Albright?
I think because this role is all about being an introvert in extrovert's clothing. It's being there for students. It's being there for their parents. It's being there for the faculty and the staff and the alumni. And at the same time, recognizing you have to take care of yourself. You have to leave that space for yourself. It's very important.
Frank?
So, Jacque, throughout your career, you've been a teacher, an administrator, and even a scientist. Which of those roles most identifies Jacque?
I always say that I am a scientist. I'm always learning about science, and the job I currently do is the president of Albright College.
So how did the scientist play out in your career?
Learning to learn. It has really been always about asking the next question, about thinking about how I'm a computational scientist, how computation can help solve problems in the biological world.
How does that translate to the curriculum you run at Albright?
Well, I understand that at one point in time, you have a rather successful entrepreneur. You had a rather successful entrepreneurial career, co-founding a business. Could you tell us a little bit about what kind of business you co-founded, with whom, and when, and what happened?
Yeah, I had the opportunity when I worked at the Scripps Research Institute in San Diego to co-found a company. It was a biotech software company. It was awesome to take a company from scratch and raise $50 million in venture capital over 3 rounds. And then the market crashed, and we did a complete turnaround and sold the company. And then I took a year off and traveled the country in my travel trailer with my dogs and my husband.
That company, what was your role in that company? What was the name of that company? What was your role in it?
The company was Gene-Formatics, and I was chief science officer.
You were chief science officer of a company that you co-founded. Mm-hmm. That went up, had some hardships, yet you were able to exit. Mm-hmm. So you've been through the roller coaster. Mm-hmm. In terms of really building a business after raising $50 million in venture capital. What's that experience, that exceptional experience of riding the roller coaster up and down in a business? What's that have to do with growing Albright?
I think it's probably one of the more important things I bring to my experience at Albright. People say that many colleges are not run like a business, and you need to bring that business experience right into, you need to know your burn rate. You need to be looking ahead and knowing who your customers are, and what their needs are, and meeting the market demand, even though that changes quickly. It's really important experience from my business days.
What do you mean meeting the market demand? You're running a university, Albright.
Yeah, but the students, what the students want and their parents want changes. So right now, in my generation, most of us were going to have 1 or 2 or 3 jobs. Right now, we are educating students. This is why learning to learning is important. We're educating students for 20 to 25 jobs that they're going to have throughout their lifetime, probably in 5 to 7 different industries.
So it says on this piece of paper, you're the president of Albright College. So I guess one of the benefits of being the president is you get to go to these fancy dancy lunches and dinners, and you get to hang out and hobnob with the trustees. And do you ever talk to any of the students?
Oh, yes. The students are super, super important. I have students over, well, at least before the pandemic, I had students over to my house and I would cook them dinner. The students are what we are here for. That is why Albright exists. And if I, as president, don't know the students, don't know what they're feeling, don't know what they want, then I'm not doing my job.
So you had the students over to your home for dinner. Did you want to do that, or did you find that to be a lot of work?
No, I loved it. In fact, when my scheduler didn't get it on my calendar, I would always ask where it is.
Why?
Because the students are why we are here. They give us our having them share what their hopes and their dreams are, and then thinking about how Albright can provide them the foundation to get there is what brings meaning to my work.
So your mother told you that if you go ahead and buy the ingredients and go whip up a dinner and get creative with a dinner, you don't have to clear the table. How are you bringing that to Albright?
I think I'm doing both at Albright. Whipping up the ingredients is really thinking about what the school needs now, as well as what it will be and what our students will need in the future. And so putting all those ingredients together to make the beautiful birthday cake rather than the cake that flops is the important part.
What's the website address for Albright College?
Albright.edu.
Albright.edu. We've been speaking with Jacque Fetrow, president of Albright College, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, it's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, we will be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go away. Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Dave Stonsifer, who's the managing partner of an organization known as Herbein & Company. Dave, what is Herbein & Company? What are you guys doing?
Good morning, Herb. Herbein & Company is a CPA and consulting firm headquartered in Reading, Pennsylvania.
How large or how small is the firm?
So we're about 210 people. Currently, we have 8 offices spreading from Pittsburgh to Marlton, New Jersey.
And how many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I am the oldest of 2 boys.
And what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old?
So I grew up on a farm on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and that time of my life was working on the farm and playing a little baseball.
Working on the farm and playing a little baseball. Okay, Matthew, give me a hand with him.
Yeah, Dave, you said besides playing baseball, you became an umpire fairly early. Tell me about that.
So I did. As I got into my teen years, my brother also played Little League, and they needed some volunteers, and I decided I love baseball, and that was an easy way to participate in baseball and watch the game from the best seat in the house. So I started to volunteer, and that led to a little more umpiring along the way, and it became a passion of mine. I umpired pretty aggressively through probably my early 30s.
How do you umpire aggressively? What does that mean?
Well, aggressively meaning I did a lot of games. It was kind of a second job, if you will.
What are the traits of an umpire that spoke to you, that you're good at?
So what I think umpiring did for me, it really shaped me. You need to be confident and decisive and display patience and project authority. And there's also a mastery of the rules that you need to get behind you. And that I think taught me at a very young age and shaped me into what I am today.
How did that shape you into what it is today? What's the connection between umpiring and being the managing partner of Herbein & Company?
Well, every bit of those traits I just mentioned are what I have to do on a daily basis here at the firm. I have to have confidence. I have to be decisive. I have to absolutely be patient. And to be a good CPA, it's obviously a very rule-based profession, so I need to have masteries of the auditing and tax rules that I do on a daily basis.
Daily?
So tell us about the farm, growing up on a farm. What did you have to do?
So farm life's a typical thing you'd imagine. I grew up on a livestock farm, so that's caring for animals, and that's all day, every day kind of thing. So you get up in the morning early, and you're feeding animals, and then off to school, and you come home from school and do it in reverse order with chores on the back end of the day. So it teaches time management and responsibility.
And so that work ethic, bring that to what does that do today?
It's no different than what I do as a CPA. It's very much very work ethic oriented profession, and just taking care of a lot of clients, and we're responsible for 200 plus people here at the firm.
Brian?
Hey, Dave, since you eventually went to a different career path other than farming, how did you pivot into that new career path?
So I realized pretty early I didn't like the farm lifestyle, and that I can't really control a lot of things with weather and commodity prices and things like that. And I wanted to have a little more control of my career. So I went to Albright College as a business major, was a little bit misdirected, and fortunately met a very wonderful professor who got me focused in the accounting profession. And I joked that she twisted my arm figuratively and literally and kind of was my compass and pointed me into my current profession.
David, I'm very curious about a quote in your bio where you say this: the name on the front of the jersey represents who you play for. The name on the back of the jersey represents who raised you. Do them both justice. I'm curious, what does that mean to you?
So that's my love of baseball coming out, but I take that quote pretty seriously. You're responsible for your family, but you're also responsible for your work family. And as I mentioned, there's 200 employees here, and every decision I make affects not only those 200, but their extended families too. And that's a responsibility I don't take very lightly when there's 1,000 people that every decision affects.
Shannon?
David, in the green room, you mentioned how important it is to you to serve your community. I'm curious, how old were you when that first started showing up?
I was part of the 4-H program growing up on a livestock farm, and 4-H is a very community-based program. So early on, you're participating in community activities. As you get older in 4-H, then you start to lead some of those community projects. So somewhere in that, probably 12, 13, 14 age was where that really, I guess, took hold for me. So a lot of those community projects, or a lot of kids taking on some sort of community-based projects. So when you're a younger child and that you're participating in the programs, when you're a little older, you start to lead different factions of those programs.
And how does that relate to what you're doing nowadays?
So obviously there's a lot of mentoring that comes into leading projects like that. So as you grow up in a CPA firm, there's a lot of opportunity to mentor and help shape the career paths of some of your younger colleagues. And I get a lot of satisfaction to this day watching, my colleagues pass the CPA exam, get promoted, and then work their way up the ranks as a CPA firm.
Drew.
David, tell us about baseball. What was your role on the team?
So I had the misfortune of playing on a very bad team, but I was a pitcher, shortstop, third baseman. So being one of the better players on a bad team, that led to a lot of motivational opportunities, I should say, to get the team kind of pointed in the right direction.
I was going to ask, what would your teammates tell us about you?
I was co-captain most of the teams along the way. I think they would say I displayed leadership and was very passionate with what I did as a baseball player. Did
your family support that career? Like, did your parents come watch the games?
Absolutely. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a farmer, and it's, the farm life's tough, but he always found ways to get to all the games, which, resonates and you appreciate today as an adult.
Yeah. What did that mean to you to look over and see your dad there?
Oh, it's all the motivation in the world. I mean, it means the world to a little boy seeing his father, his parents sitting there watching you play baseball, and knowing how hard he worked, but still finding time to come out and support you is a pretty amazing thing.
And what did that teach you that you bring to work every day today?
That certainly teach you the importance of work-life balance and giving my colleagues the opportunity to have that opportunity for their kids. There's a lot of things in life beyond work, and you need to find that sweet spot and be able to balance all of that. Well, pre-COVID, I was traveling quite a bit, and it was hard to balance the travel and the umpire. I do miss it sorely, but I did have to put that away.
I'm fascinated by the umpire thing. Take me back to when you're a teenager and there's parents and coaches behaving badly, and how do you deal with that as a teenage umpire?
It's a challenge in all seriousness. I mean, everything you've ever seen with baseball and umpires happens all the time, and you're screamed at and sworn at and everything under the sun, and that's where you have to display patience. And at some point they cross the line, and that's where the authoritative thing comes in, and you got to draw the line and remove them if they become problematic.
How did you learn how to handle that? How did you learn how to react to that?
So I was very fortunate. In the area I grew up, there was a gentleman by the name of Johnny Clayton that was a Olympic certified umpire, and he took a liking to me, and I saw the passion he had for the game, and I learned a lot from him. It takes a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work, and like I said, mastery of skill.
And how does that reacting to misbehaving parents and coaches, how does that relate to what you're doing today?
Well, every day or so, something comes up at the firm where you need to display patience, and then perhaps be authoritative and make a call whether it's popular or not for the greater good. So that's,
I understand that you've done it. You enjoy travel, and tell us a little bit about your traveling side.
So that's, again, pre-pandemic was something my wife and I love to do. We love exploring new places and traveling to different countries, exploring new food, meeting new people. And
well, what's that have to do with who you are, and what's that have to do with this organization, Herbein and Company?
So I guess for me, travel is always an opportunity to learn. And, at our firm, we like to have an environment of continuous learning. And I personally think there's no better way to learn than to travel. So I guess that's the overlap for me.
So I understand that, you like understanding the rules, which is baseball and also accounting. I understand that you like putting yourself right in the middle of it, the umpire and the managing partner. But I also hear this adventurous, continuous learning, continuous growth kind of thing. And is that one of the reasons that your partners want you to be the managing partner of Herbein, because you're going to help them keep growing the organization because of your people skills, your ability to organize everybody and stuff? Am I seeing that right?
I certainly think that's true, Herb. I mean, if we're not growing, we're going backwards. And, that's absolutely a passion of mine. And I'm a guy that doesn't like to sit still. I think I got that from my father, and the farm upbringing is just, you're always looking for the new opportunity to be better and to continue to grow.
To continue to be better and to continue to grow. So you're not one to rest on your laurels. What's the website address of this organization known as Herbein and Company?
Herbein.com, Herbein.
Herbein.com. We've been speaking with Dave Stonsifer, managing partner of Herbein and Company, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Real quick, what's the best part of your job, Dave?
The best part of my job is being able to work with so many great people, and they make me better each and every day.
We've been speaking with Dave Stonsifer, managing partner of Herbein and Company, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. Don't go away. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. I'd like to introduce Tom McEvoy, who is the president of DesignStone and LumberCon. Tom, what is DesignStone and LumberCon? What are you doing?
They're both concrete companies. The LumberCon is a concrete deck and docks, things like that, compete with pressure-treated lumber. And the second company, DesignStone, is a building system to make hurricane and fireproof homes and commercial buildings.
And these are two startups. Where are you from originally, and how many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
New Rochelle, New York, and I'm the oldest of four.
All right. And what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old?
Doing a bunch of things. I had a paper route, and I had sports, football, baseball, basketball, swimming, and towards the 14 side, water polo.
And I understand there was something happened with this paper route. What was special with you regarding this paper route?
I actually had the paper route from age 11 to 18 because I read that there was a scholarship, college scholarship, that you got if you were, did a great job, and the people you delivered papers to would write letters of recommendation. So I hung in there for 7 years.
So your nature really is to set a goal and to get there. I mean, if you're 11 years old and you're working toward this goal of getting a scholarship, that's pretty significant. It's like you're talk about stick-to-itiveness. That's sort of your nature, isn't it?
It was a pretty clear goal. It wasn't a very successful goal, but it was a clear one.
Let's see. Drew, please give me a hand.
Yeah, Tom, I want to go back to this paper route. So you had to get recommendations from your clients at 11 years old. How did you go about doing that?
Basically, I would talk to each person I'm delivering the paper to and say, how do you want it delivered? Do you want it in your mailbox? Do you want it inside a screen door? I understand the rules, and I let them know that if I was ever late, going to be late one night because of sports or something, I'd let them know before that I have a game a certain day, and so the paper will be delivered late. So
what is the lesson from that experience that you bring to work with you every day?
really, I aggressively talk to customers and employees and find out, what's going on in their lives from the customer standpoint, what they need,
Brian?
et cetera.
Tom, delivering papers, you obviously had a lot of interaction with adults. What was that like?
It was good because I'm an extrovert, but I was a little, shy of adults, and you had to learn to talk to the adults kind of like an adult. You ask them questions. They would typically have a complaint if they're talking to you, and you find out what the problem was, and you figure out a solution.
What's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
Nowadays, I have 2 new products, and I need to go out to architects, contractors, et cetera, and say, here's this product, here's why it's better, and then hear all their objections and try and figure out a way to make them comfortable with this new product.
Frank?
Tom, clearly, early on, you had to juggle many roles and be adaptable and flexible. I don't know if you're aware of that, but where does that come from?
Probably just because I was forced to do it and didn't realize I was being forced to do it, balancing getting the schoolwork done, getting all the sports, and then making sure you come home and you had the responsibility to deliver the paper on time. Just doing that, it became like second nature.
Is that a role and function that's important to you today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, if I'm not, juggling a bunch of things that you said, I get bored.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
Tom, you've talked a lot about sports. What was your favorite sport as a kid?
Favorite sport probably was things like football and basketball, but the one that really stuck with me long term that I liked was water polo.
And what was your role on the water polo team?
Well, there wasn't any kind of water polo official league, so I started the team with a bunch of the guys in the swim team, and then we played pickup games. And that's.
I don't get that. You were playing all these different sports, all these sports that had leagues and everything set up, and you're telling me you started a water polo team? Why did you do that?
It's worse than that. I started one in college too, and we were the worst team around. But
where did you get off thinking you could start a water polo team? Where's that come from?
No one told me I couldn't, kind of thing. Yeah.
Tell me, does the thinking and the starting a water polo team, does that have anything to do with what you're doing today?
Yeah, because in the construction business, to come up with a whole new system, people say you're crazy, and I'm like, well, it's a better system. We're gonna figure out how to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Daly.
So, Tom, let's switch gears a little. Tell us about your family. How many children do you have?
A boy and a girl. Oh boy, now the boy's 35 and the girl's 27.
You just dated yourself, so we won't say anything. But what did you learn from them growing while you were raising those kids? And I understand they was all over the world.
Yeah, balance. How to make sure that you're a good father and doing things with them, even though your travel schedule is crazy. And I was traveling 80% of the time, so that when I was back with them, I had to really focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're running 2 startups now. Does that things you learned from them apply?
Yeah, balance again, because we got the startups. We have things here in the town that we live in that I'm involved with, and I try and stay involved in their lives. So balancing all those things is still very important.
Shannon?
Who outside of your immediate family was somebody that you looked up to as a kid?
Shannon, I'm a history fanatic, and Winston Churchill is the person I admire most out of the last, say, 100 years.
Tell us more about that. Why him?
Because there's no chance the United Kingdom should have survived World War II. And I think he's the reason why, he basically kept that country together and was so driven, so focused, never wavered. It just is an amazing person. And he's pretty funny, too.
And what does that mean to you, and how does that relate to what you're doing nowadays?
I think it goes back to the juggling thing. There's lots going on. People say the odds are against you, and I'm like, if we just keep putting one foot in front of the other and staying focused, we're going to end up succeeding most of the time.
Frank?
So, Tom, not only have you had a variety of positions throughout your career, but you touched on the fact that you've worked in several different countries and continents, for that matter. Can you tell us more about that experience?
Somehow, I worked for a company called Armstrong years ago, another building product company, And they somehow thought I was Mr. International. I wasn't. I'm born and raised in New Rochelle, never left New Rochelle, New York. But they sent me to Hong Kong. And then after Hong Kong, they sent me to London. And basically, I ran 50 different countries. And getting to know the people in those different countries, realizing I'm the minority, but I'm also the boss. And how do I get them all to feel good working for me and trying to hit our mission?
Once again, the juggling theme. What did you learn there that really helps you most today back home?
It's the combination of listening and then feeding back. Here's what I've heard based on this discussion. Here's what we're going to do, and we have we all have a clear goal together. And then it's accountability. You got to nail the goal.
Daly?
So, Tom, when we were in the green room, you were talking about some work you've done to help develop a theater in this town of Westchester. Tell us about that.
I mean, Daly, as you know, Westchester is just a great town, but my wife and I and a couple of friends got together years ago and said, the one thing we're missing is a theater. And so we tried to put some focus groups together to see if we could make a theater. And everyone said, yeah, but it's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. And it's back to the Winston Churchill thing, I think. We just kept working at it, and finally raised enough money that we bought the Armory and converted it into a theater, and now it's doing pretty well.
But it would seem to me that if you're in the midst of starting these businesses and you were involved in a business at that point in time, shouldn't you be focused on business? What are you doing this stuff, donating money and time to the community for?
What's interesting is the theater. I've met so many friends in the greater Westchester area that I didn't spend that much time with. I was traveling, and I got to meet so many people in this area that now have become great friends. And those great friends have actually helped me in the business side too. So it all kind of works together. So
it's all about relationships with you. You're a relationship kind of guy, it sounds like.
Well, yes, and that's a lot of fun for me.
Mm-hmm. The website address of this organization these organizations known as DesignStone and LumberCon. What's the website address?
It's LumberCon, LumberCon USA.com. And then DesignStone is DesignStone, DesignStone.build.
We've been speaking with Tom McEvoy, who is the president of DesignStone and LumberCon here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this quick break. You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, and we'd like to introduce Alison Cohen, President and CEO of Bicycle Transit Systems. Alison, what is Bicycle Transit Systems? What are you folks up to?
Bicycle Transit Systems is a bike share operations company. We operate bike shares in major markets, including Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. Previous to that, I launched bike share systems in Boston, New York, DC, Chicago, almost every bike share system in major cities in the country.
And where are you from originally?
I'm from outside of Philadelphia, a town called Wynwood, which is in Lower Merion.
And how many brothers and sisters, where are you in the pecking order?
I'm the youngest of three. I have two older brothers.
Tell us about the effect your two older brothers had on you.
Yeah, we have a very diverse family, driven in a lot of similar ways. My oldest brother was into sports. He's 7 years older than me. I was able to always be the twerp little girl playing sports with the teenage boys. And my middle brother is an artist and always out there adventuring. He was a Cohen who converted to a Muslim at age 16 and was just adventuring and really opened my mind as to what was possible.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
Alison, you had a legendary athletic career. Can you just give us the abridged highlights of the things you accomplished?
Legendary in the world of Lower Merion, but I did go to Lower Merion. I had 13 varsity letters in 12 seasons. My claim to fame in life is that Kobe Bryant broke my record at Lower Merion as the highest basketball scorer in the LM history. I was on the first girls soccer team at LM. I ended up playing tennis in college and on the pro tour afterwards.
What do you attribute this to?
My athletic career?
Yeah.
I was born with natural ability. I have loved balls and basketball and running since I was a kid. And for me, a question has always been about, can I focus enough to harness that energy and talent?
Did you tell us you put your body into it?
Yeah. I mean, I think, being a person who can box out in soccer and not necessarily.
What's that have to do with this ability of yours to put yourself into whatever you're doing? What's that have to do with your building this organization?
I think I go 100% at what I do.
Excellent.
And
Shannon?
Alison, who are you more like, your mom or dad?
I think like most children, I have characteristics of both. My mom is a very steady presence, 75% happy most of the time. I don't have a lot of roller coasters, and she's a bit adventurous. Mm-hmm. And both of my parents are very intellectually curious. And my dad is competitive, and he definitely planted that seed in me.
Daly?
Oh, I hear all this competition, hear all this sports, all this stuff. It's great. I love it. But what for a living, you give away bicycles for people to ride? Tell me how that works.
Yeah, bike share is something that it didn't exist in the U.S. in 2010. And I was a bike commuter. I was committed to a mission-driven career. And it was an opportunity to bring what had started in Europe into the U.S. And, where I see fun and adventure and competition, I was able to be the first doing bike share in the U.S. And it's been an exciting roller coaster ride for the last 12 years.
This is the competition.
Matthew?
Yeah. Alison, how young were you when you knew you were so ultra competitive?
I definitely, by the age of 5 or 6, I was a tomboy, and someone in my kindergarten or first grade class, another girl made fun of me for looking like a boy, and I knocked the wind out of her. And, I felt horrible about that, but I definitely have had something, probably coming out of the womb.
Mm-hmm. What's that have to do with building this organization, this competitive side of you?
Yeah, I guess there is something about whatever I do, I want to do it intensely and I want to do it the best. And,
that's what Drew was talking about with putting your body into it, where it's like you do it well, you do it intense. You also had vision. This was the first organization of its type?
Yeah, I mean, I got obsessed with bike share. It's all I've thought about for the last 12 or 13 years. And, initially it's about the transportation. It's about doing something first. It's about providing this amazing means of transportation. Over the last 4 or 5 years, as I've grown this organization into a mature organization, I've realized my passion is about leading people and providing equitable transportation to cities. And as many of my employees and so many of our customers are people of color, it's really made me understand what it means to be white and the privilege that I've gotten to lead this organization. And so now I'm super passionate, and this will be for the rest of my life, about bringing equity to transportation, to education, to our communities.
Brian?
Hey, Alison, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an astronaut.
And an astronaut. So what does that have to do with what you do now?
There's something, I've ended up in bike share. I think there is something about the physical aspect. I'm a physical person, and, astronaut I saw as this perfect mix of, you needed to be able to withstand great physical deeds while also being great academically. And I think bike share has this physical aspect to it, yet it's also incredibly intellectually challenging and flexible. And the startup aspect of it for the last 12 years has been amazing.
Frank?
Alison, so you were a professional tennis player, but your academic accomplishments are pretty significant as well. Degree in physics, master's at MIT, investment banker. Would you say you were as successful in the classroom as you were on a tennis court?
What I realized along the way, I mean, I am both intellectually curious and I like getting good grades. However, in investment banking, I realized I didn't like money for the sake of money. I actually failed out of MIT. I went to get a PhD and I didn't pass that mid-level test. And I realized that academics for the sake of academics was not fulfilling to me. So I really like having these academic skills, but be able to see that in the street, to see the accomplishments from that is what motivates me.
In your mind, what did that failure experience teach you?
That it's a real question about your identity. Your identity, like when I lost on a tennis court, you'd be crushed. Am I just a tennis player? No, I can do a lot more. Am I defined by being a smart person who's at MIT? No, I can always so that question of who you are, can you start over from nothing? And I've started over from nothing. I mean, not nothing. I have privilege of who I am, but many times, and that gives me an extreme amount of confidence.
Sounds like
Alison, you owned an interesting endurance running record. What can you tell us about that?
I set the world record for the fastest half marathon pushing a triple stroller. So my wife and I took our 3 kids, ages 1, 1, and 3, and we showed up in Atlantic City. The biggest accomplishment was to get there by 7 a.m., the time the race started. And we set the world record in 2016.
That's amazing. How were the kids along the run?
They were amazing. I had all these snacks and all these stories and things that I had ready, and they slept and they just had a ball watching all the people along the race.
What did it mean to you to have your wife there at the finish line to support you?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, she knows I do all these crazy, I have this desire to sort of be successful in non-traditional ways. And anytime I come up with a wackadoodle idea, she supports everything that, I've always wanted to do. We let each other fly and then come back to the nest and provide each other that support.
Mm-hmm. Where's that come from in your childhood?
Yeah, my family is a little bit laissez-faire. We love each other. We have really strong bonds, and we sort of don't necessarily want to be in each other's hair every single day. 5 different households, a brother in New Mexico and Oklahoma. My parents are here in Philly, and we love to see each other thrive.
Alison, why did you had a brother, when you're like 8 years old, Alison, you had a teenage brother who let you play as the twerp in sports. Why did he let you play?
I think he loved having this super talented, little sister. I remember playing winter football with, his friends. And it was like, we would have the secret play and no one would cover me. I'm this 8-year-old girl. And I would go to the end zone and, make this diving catch and none of his friends would be expecting it. And I think he loved, we won.
The website address for Bicycle Transit Systems is?
bicycletransit.com.
We've been speaking with Alison Cohen, President and CEO of Bicycle Transit Systems here on Executive Leaders Radio. Matthew, could you give us a rundown on who else we've had the opportunity of hanging out with today, please?
I'd love to. It's been a really fun show. We started off with Jacque Fetrow, who is the president of Albright College. Then we had Dave Stonsifer, the managing partner of Herbein and Company. We had Tom McEvoy, who's the president of both DesignStone and LumberCon. And just now we've interviewed Alison Cohen, who's the president and CEO of Bicycle Transit Systems.
I would like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane, Newmark Knight Frank, Drew Hanlon, Daley Tipton, Evolution Energy Partners, Matthew Shapiro, Obermeyer, Frank Hennessy, Premier Planning, and Brian Campbell, ECBM, for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening listening audience. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.